Hey there, this is Therese Skelly, and I am so excited that you are going to be listening to an episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. Do you like those two words? Fiercely Brilliant. My hypothesis is that you are here for a reason. We all are. Our souls have led us on journeys that have very often taken some twists and turns, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes there's struggle and there's loss and there's challenge, and in the middle of that, there's always a way out. And it's those times that often lead us into our great life and work. So you're going to hear stories in these episodes of myself and other beautiful people that share the journey. They share how they got to the place where they're standing, working in their brilliance, and being the powerful leaders that they are. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Hey, this is Therese, and it's another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. And I love bringing about stories of people who have had the courage to transform themselves. Because very often, like, you could be on a path and then your soul is screaming out for something else. And that's not easy. It's not like we just open a different door, and right? So I know you know what I'm talking about. And so I'm really happy to introduce Jennifer Bloome. And Jennifer has a very cool story that you are going to appreciate a great deal. So welcome.
So glad to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. So tell us today what you do and what you love about it.
So I have created the title for myself of Soul Abundance Guide. Ooh. And basically what that means is I help people create more of what they want. That's the nitty-gritty of it. And so I work in a couple of different areas. I work both with women who've been trying to get pregnant, dealing with infertility, creating babies. And then I also work on the side of, money fertility, and for people who want to create more in their bank account. But it's really, and what I love about it is that, I resisted being the money person for a very long time because it's just not my, honestly, I have things that I like and want to live abundantly, but money, wasn't my thing. But what I'm helping people do, and what I love about what I help people do is that it isn't about making anything happen. It's about learning how to receive. Ooh. So it's a whole new set of skills, right? Because we think we have to be out there and chugging and, beating down on the doorstep of our clients or whatever it is, whatever our work is in the world. And it's really about flipping the switch so that you can start to receive it. And, automatically like the energy settles and it's really an opening. And there's a lot of things that we get to do to be able to learn how to receive, because you think we know how to do that, but we really don't. So that's the thing that I love about what I do.
That's, can I say, sexy AF? Oh my gosh. And I had an infertility journey. And if you look at just how life is created, a woman has to receive, right, in order to be impregnated. And I feel like a lot of women of our age or this era, we're givers. We were wired differently, right? And so I love that you have the both. You have like literally I help you conceive life, like the ultimate in receiving, and then receive the blessings of the universe in the form of money.
Exactly.
That. Wow. I got goosebumps. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I love my job. I do.
I bet.
Both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. So I know you have kind of an interesting background. Like when you talk about soul guide, I know that's not where you started. Like, so gang, if you're listening to her, this is the after in the chapter, right? Like this is the full book is fully written, been on the bestseller list for years. But I want to go to the before, because I know you didn't start there. And we have my dog whining in the background. I don't understand. So if you're hearing weird sounds, it's my dog is whining in the background. So.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
He didn't get a walk today. And so
yes.
This is the puppy nagging, basically.
Oh, yes. Right. So we'll attend later. So no, this is very definitely the after. And of course, maybe it's the after and then there's volume 2. I don't know. We'll see where it goes from here.
Most like usually is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I had one of the best ways to illustrate this is I had lunch with a friend of mine from college. Oh, this was probably even 15 years ago. And she said, when you think back to who you were in college, do you think that woman would laugh at who you are today. And I said, she would have no clue. She would have no clue who I was. So I started out, and again, this is total privilege. I knew from the day I started kindergarten that I was going to go to college. That was right. So it was very much education, very important in my family, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And I ended up psychobiology and then into occupational therapy. So I had this really strong root system in medicine,
right?
And the knowledge and the learning and the books and the things you can touch and the things you can prove.
Oh,
right.
Yes.
And so, and that's that's still important to me. I still find myself doing Medline searches for information about what I do. But it was stifling in some ways. There were a couple of things happened. Insurance companies were really taking over, and I was passing more off to the assistant. I was the paperwork person, and I just, it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Right.
But I had no idea what the next thing was. And I put out, in a way that I would say now, I put a call out to the universe.
Okay.
I didn't have those words. I did not have the words at that point. I was standing in my living room thinking and saying, show me what's next. What is this? What am I going to do? And a couple of days later, I was leafing through just a community newspaper, and it had a little tiny ad, back when you were actually looking at regular newspapers.
Things,
for a health and wellness counseling degree. So off I go back to school, because school's my thing.
Oh, yes.
Education's my thing. This is going to be the answer. And really what it was a deep dive into alternative medicine. And my eyes were just opened. Like, I didn't know this stuff existed.
Yeah.
And it really, as you can tell, it was just a real turn on. It was like, okay, I felt like I was starting to come home. But like, I was quiet about it. I didn't want to tell anybody about it. I barely even told my parents that I was back in school when, because it was just sort of, it was so new. And threaded through that time, I had my third child. I'd had difficulty with deliveries the first two. So I was taking what I was learning and applying it to having a different kind of delivery. And that's where I was really starting to understand this mind-body connection.
Right.
So from the science, now I'm into mind-body. Okay, it's still science-based.
Yeah.
Right. And really loving what I was doing. And that became my new business. I helped other women in the mind-body world. But I still knew at that point that there was something missing. I was still sort of very quietly telling people I was in business because I was terrified. I really was. I was so afraid of being seen in this new space. Well,
hold on. What about that space caused shame or you to hold yourself back? What was the story around that?
Oh, geez. So again, it's this whole education model. I went to a university lab school. You had to test to get in. I'm smart. I got in.
Yeah.
There were 40 kids, and I'm trying to remember how many. I mean, there's ambassadors in my class. There are high class physicists. There are high class mathematicians. People who retired at 30 because they hit with all of the website stuff back in the whatever that was 90s. Anyway, it was like it was starting to feel like some of the phrases that I can't stand now, airy fairy, woo woo, and I didn't want to tell people about it. I was embarrassed. Because I couldn't ground into it. You can ground into science. You can ground into medicine. At least at that point, that was was it. And I was starting to really sense that there was another part of me that was coming through when I was doing the work. Like I didn't have the language at that time, but I was directly connecting with source when I was in session with people. Ooh, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
I mean, something right. And I was afraid of being shamed. I add to that whole story, all of us carry pockets of holes within us, those kinds of things. And for me, it was self-worth. So here I am sort of venturing into this unknown territory, not really believing in myself to start with, and then losing the ground beneath me.
Wow.
but there was no way to go but forward. I mean, I knew that
you had to keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I had to, because I wasn't going to go back to OT. I wasn't going to go back to, I knew it. That was backwards.
Right.
So so then again, at this point, not really wanting to be seen, wanting to have a full caseload before I decided that I was successful, but not telling anybody I was in business. Doesn't mix.
That's a win-win strategy for marketing, eh?
Exactly. So then at that same time, my husband experienced several long periods of unemployment, like years at a time. And we did everything we could. We burned through our entire 401k. We never defaulted anywhere, but we ended up going through bankruptcy. And it was one of the lowest moments of my entire life. At least, that's how I described it then.
Yeah.
Right? Because here I'm trying to prove to myself that I can go off and do this new thing. Didn't pan out. Doing the thing that we were taught, that was my dad said it was a high up administrator at the University of Illinois in finance, budget planning. I was doing all the wrong things.
More layers of shame, right?
Exactly. And what's amazing as I look back on it now is that the universe could not have orchestrated a better story.
Yeah, of course.
Because the shame was so deep. I had to make a choice. I had to either choose to move through it, or it was going to take me out. I was going to have to opt to leave the planet, because I couldn't live with all of that on my shoulders. I got very ill. I burnt out my adrenals. I spent a year in bed. It became very clear I needed to do something about it. So at this time, then I was introduced to something that completely changed the picture for me. I was introduced to a woman named Jennifer Bloome, who has a paradigm called soul language. And this, it changed everything for me, because I finally started learning who I was at a core level. And not only that, but I could see that the shadow side of the gifts that I carry were all of these little pieces, right? It wasn't a surprise that I went through bankruptcy, because I was disconnected, not because there was this dark mark against my soul, which is how I envisioned it, right? There's all this great big story about,
what a horrible human you were. Yeah,
exactly.
Right, I get it.
Exactly. So I began to add soul into not just my own day-to-day life, but into the work that I do with my clients. And again, it just was a game changer. And I thought that was sort of it, right? Okay, so now I'm mind, body, soul. I got it. I'm cooking with gas. Yeah. I got it. And, what I realized, and this growth has really just been over the last couple of years, was that the bankruptcy at one level was all about showing me where my self-worth wasn't enough, where I was using external somethings to create and show something permanent. So I learned that not only was the bankruptcy about understanding that I was trying to create self-worth through something external, like how much money was in the bank or how many clients I had, but it was also giving me the opportunity to really understand that I had to define myself in a new way. Yeah. And this is where I started to really understand that who I am is magic. I am alive with magic. I work with the elements. Right? There are so many pieces of the puzzle here, and I get to identify as magic. Wow. And that just, right? That
just blows your whole world open, doesn't it? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And talk about finishing this whole idea of coming home. Right. That I can be in that and love then what gets to come out because it's who I am.
Wow. What a journey. So I want to just kind of unpack some of those things, because in your story are my favorite elements. And, we start with identity. I work with alpha women as hello, you sure are one. And I think as alpha women, we have a huge identification, like our identity is our productivity or our education or our accolades or our monies, right? Like there's a lot of attachment to how we show up in the world, what we do in the world, the good we're doing in the world, right? And talk about how it was for you, because you went from like this high level to, well, financial father, and I'm freaking bankrupt. What the hell? And I feel like a fraud. So when the identity gets pulled away, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of sense of like, who the hell am I? So talk about that, because I think that hits people a lot when life is like pulling you in a new direction. It can be really hard because you got to let go of the thing that has been working for you, right? And gets you the goodies. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. As you're explaining all of it, I remember that time of, in fact, I remember being out in the garden with my husband, and we were making the decision, like, okay, this is it. We've got to call the lawyer, and we just have to get started.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now what? And again, not being able to be who I was, who I thought I should be, right? All these things that are mapped out from the beginning. And in its place it was just so much turmoil of, I don't even know who I am. I don't know who to be anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And shame, talk about the shame. It was present every moment of every day. And what I wish that I knew back then,
that's a great thing to talk about. Good.
Right. Was that this was just setting me up for something brand new.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it was. It was something that I was asking for, number one,
right?
Standing in the middle of the living room saying, bring it on.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I didn't realize what I was asking for at the time.
Yeah.
And it was, I had been ignoring certain things, and the universe, it's cosmic 2x4s when that happens. And again, I wish that I could have seen it for what it was at that point. I think it would have saved me the year in bed with my adrenals, right?
Right.
But I was still telling the story that I was not good enough. It was like the last legs of that part of the identity, that I'm not good enough. There's something broken in me, that I'm the one, I'm the one person in the whole universe that law of attraction doesn't work for, blah, 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 right? I'm the error. And that went, I can laugh about it now, but that was really what it felt like, because there were so many times before the bankruptcy, sort of on my knees, yearning, begging, wishing, wanting for this to get fixed, because we had borrowed money from both my parents and my husband's parents.
Wow.
And when you go through bankruptcy, you have to send letters to the people that you're not going to pay back. And we did it as loans, it was all written out and everything. So it was, everything was going to be out there. It's so public, right? And so just really wanting to cling onto the old identity so badly that I was willing to do anything. And of course, the universe had other ideas. I had other ideas that I had asked for. I don't mean to, I don't feel like it's fate. I don't think that I was pushed, but I know that my allies and helpers were putting me in a new direction.
Yeah. And so if you're listening, I want you to take away, I like to normalize. I went through bankruptcy also 10, 11, 12 years ago. And wow, we're not raised to be flaky, bad people that don't pay our bills.
Right.
And I remember going to my chiropractor, and I was so sick, like you, because the stress just basically kills, right? And I was so like, but I got to pay these bills. I got to pay. And he's just like, this is killing you. Are you aware? You know what I mean? And it was because I'm not a good girl if I don't freaking pay my bills. Like, I'm a good human. I was not raised to blow off my obligations, because if you have an identity of a good human and a contributing person, and suddenly you're like, wow, I guess I'm a loser. And for me, I lost my house as well. I mean, so I just want you to listen. If you are to this place, I love what you said, Jennifer, that like, this is happening to me. It's happening for my best good. I'm not a victim. Bad things are not happening. I'm not being punished. And have people in your life that can remind you. When I was going through it, I had literally somebody that every day she would call me up and we would pray. And she would basically say, I'm giving thanks in advance, knowing it's done. Like somebody could see it for me because I couldn't. So the message here is reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out. You need somebody that has the bigger vision, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody who can hold that place of possibility.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're stepping into.
Yes,
and you don't know what it is. I mean, there is so
Right.
much faith here that
Oh my
something is
gosh.
coming. I could not have predicted that this is
Yeah.
where I would end up. And if I had, I probably might have run screaming because I wasn't ready for it yet.
It was kind of crazy.
Right. As things get revealed,
Yeah.
you're ready and you step in
Little
and then you're
steps,
ready.
right.
Yeah, exactly. Small steps and be okay with that. That's not really my personality. I tend to want to.
I can tell. But okay, so let's talk about, so it's curious to me that when you were in the health and wellness field, the hiding out, the lack of sense of self, how did you overcome? I mean, I know the bankruptcy was in the middle, but you live pretty big now. Like you don't hide. So how did you get over? You're still sort of doing the same thing, right? You're working with people in a transformational way. It's like, I know you've added soul, but what shifted instead of the apology and like, oh God, I don't want to tell anybody, to I'm in my magic. Like take us on that. And I want people listening, like there are steps that you can actually do this. This isn't just she didn't wake up one day and being super lucky. Like,
no, I know.
She did this.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what? I am a bit of a what do you call all the assessment? I'm an assessment junkie.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So the very first assessment that I did, we probably did the Myers-Briggs in college. You know, I knew that I was an INFJ, which didn't really mean a lot to me at the time. But as I'm on this path, I ran into Beth Davis and I did a hand analysis.
Okay.
And that gave me the message, I'm a healer. And I'm not just a healer, I'm a healer of healers, right? That's one of my gift markings. Yeah. So I'm gathering little pieces of information. Okay. I couldn't take that on. I mean, I was blown away by it, but like, okay, gathering that piece of data. And then of course there's soul language, and then there's Enneagram and all of the other different various pieces, but they were still kind of out here, right? Okay. They were around me. And you know, the other big teacher for me has been the business and the money flow. And I came to this point where wish fish or cut bait, right? I really seriously, the business needed to start working for me. And it was there were several layers of ahas that, so one of the things that I teach about money is that we have this soul money relationship. And there are three aspects to that relationship. There's a relationship with ourself, relationship with the divine, and relationship with money. Relationship with self is all about being willing to be seen, being willing to be heard, being willing to say yes to all of the goodies that the universe is always delivering to us. Right. And so that layering of understanding I did for myself first, and then of course brought it to my clients. So it was this gradual saying yes. 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 And then along the way, a lot of healing, some shamanic journeying to help bring back pieces that I had let go. You know, lots of really good resources. You spoke earlier about reaching out to people. Yeah. I did not do this alone.
Yeah, that is the key.
I did not do it alone.
Right.
And I could I could meet somebody who would hold space of possibility until I could hold it for myself.
That's it. That's what we do.
And this piece about being enough, because it's one of those core wounds, has been sort of the last piece to slide into place. And I know there's more work to do there, but it's slid into place enough that I can sit here and say, I am alive with magic, right?
That makes my heart happy. Yeah. You know, you have such a great story because you were about the attachments to the scientific, the logical, the very masculine, very left brain, analytical, what you can prove, you know. And when you feel like you have to prove yourself when you're not enough, it's very easy to get attached to, well, look, science says, right? The books say, my program, you know. And so the journey really for you was trusting the inside part.
Yes.
And you're not attached now to the, oh, now I have value because I do this. Now you have value because you know who the fuck you are and the magic you do, right? And so it's such a really cool journey how to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just being able to and to literally be able to feel it. That, I couldn't every time everything else was always about hiding, and now it's about really just embodying it. Yeah.
Oh, I love that word.
Mhm.
And so another thing I like about your story is that, because I think sometimes when you are an overachieving superhero like you and I and half of my listeners are, it's like we can't do it until it's done. We can't do it till it's perfect. We can't do it till we've arrived. Oh, I have this degree, this certification, this, you know what I mean? And I heard you do it real messy. Like you did it before, even you said, my self-esteem is not 100. I'm not 100% there. It's growing. And hello, you still have a pulse, right?
Exactly. We're always transforming.
But the fact that you were just saying, okay, I don't know what this is. I'm going to just throw myself into the journey, say yes to everything, and maybe not even believe it for myself, but I'm still going to walk there.
Without a doubt. There was just this really, I can say what's been most pervasive is this pull. Just pull.
Yes.
Pull. And giving myself permission to listen to it.
Yeah.
Instead of, no, I need to play by these rules. And that was hard. Giving up the rules was hard.
Right.
And so rewarding all at the same time.
That's so cool. We share very similar journeys. I've often felt like when I went through my bankruptcy, it was because I only followed the pull of my soul. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't do anything else. And initially I had so much shame about that as well. Like, God, I'm a freaking loser. And somebody reframed it. They said, no, you were so committed to your journey. You were willing to lose everything to be on the journey. And I was like, oh, that's so much of a better story, but that's the truth. And so I guess I would tell you, if you're listening, find the pull. And you did it beautifully. Like you just stood and said, show me what's next. You made the decision. You were open to receive. And, you might have strapped on and your seatbelt and had some cocktails along the way, because it was quite the bumpy ride.
It was a bumpy ride.
That's why I love these stories, because everybody has the bumpy rides. Everybody has. And so I love here was the before, here was the bumpy part, and here's the really cool, and it's not done. Like, we're always evolving, but your story's been just fabulous.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate the opportunity to share it, because I'm if there's one thing that I cannot stand in this age that we live in, is sort of this glossy image, right? Yes. I am attracted to teachers who are authentic, who are transparent, and show up. I want them to be intentional in their transparency, but that's who I gravitate to, because that's what's real. That's what's real.
And, there's so much, I think, harm done by people putting the pretense and the fake lives and the photoshopped world, that people shame themselves and they think I could never do it. And so I bring people that, like you, are just like, yeah, it was really messy. I was a hot mess. And because people can relate and then get hope. My whole thing about the show is hope and inspiration, Yeah. And so I know you want people to have the understanding that wherever you are in the transformational journey, you're okay. And so do you want to say anything else about that before we wrap up?
Yeah, and that's exactly it, is that where you are now is perfect. That's a hard word, but it is perfect. You're right where you are. And the more you step into that acceptance, the next phase will unfold for you.
Fabulous. Ooh, good. This was very, very fun to have this conversation. And I know folks listening are going to find tremendous value. And where can they find you?
Yes. So my main website is jenniferbloome.com. That's all the soul and money work. And you can find me on Facebook at the Soul Abundance Guide, and Instagram at soul.abundance.
Nice. Cool. And I think you have a freebie for the gang.
Yes, I do. So if you come to just come to the main website, and there is a quiz. It's a soul money relationship quiz. It's going to let you know a little bit more about the different aspects that I mentioned earlier, and then which one of those aspects of you could use a little bit of love, and how to do it. So that's what you get.
Fabulous. Okay. And all that information will be in the show notes. So Jennifer, it's been delightful to hang out with you. And I love your story. I love to see that just see you just being fully expressed. That we need more women that are not afraid to go through the journey to be who they're supposed to be in the world. So thank you for showing up and sharing all this.
Oh, thank you for the invitation. It was a delight.
Okay. Peace and blessings, gang. Bye now.
Hey, this is Therese, and I'm so excited that you were with us today for another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. You know, if you are inspired to get to that brilliant place, if you heard some wisdom today that made you think, yeah, I need some help in that area, I would encourage you to have a conversation with me. Super simple. You just go to thereseskelly.com/let's connect. It's a no charge, no pressure conversation. And if I can support you to clear the blocks, to really step into that brilliance, oh my gosh, it would be a delight. And I'll be honest with you, we'll just have a great conversation and see where we can take it. Peace and blessings. Bye.